Good morning. My name is Marnie Freeman, owner, designer, and quilter at Memory Quilts by Marnie. I have been a hobby quilter for almost 20 years, and about a year and a half ago, I decided to start a new venture and open up a business centered around memory quilting. I actually like to refer to myself as your Canadian memory quilt maker, as in Canada, there are only a handful of memory quilters that are actually trying to do a business around memory quilting. Traditionally, you can't find a quilter to hire. You would have to know someone, and that person would probably be retired and have a lot of extra time, and then they might make a quilt for you. A lot of quilters actually don't like to do memory quilting, not because of the amazing job, but they don't like working with stretchy fabrics. Quilters like to work with cotton because it has just the right amount of stretch in one direction, and it doesn't slip when you try and work with it. But you can't get a memory quilt with just working with cotton. So my quilts are all types of fabrics for the most part. As long as my equipment will sew through them, I can put them in your quilt. The one behind me was the original. This is my sister's memory quilt. She's a triathlete and marathon runner, race director here in Kamloops. And my inspiration, the idea came from a long history. I went to a quilt retreat in Sorrento, and as a quilter, you can sign up with your guild and take a weekend and your sewing machine and quilt with a group of ladies and not have to cook or think about those. You can just go and sew. And I saw my first memory quilt about 12 years ago, and it was another quilter who was putting together a t-shirt quilt. And I thought, oh my gosh, isn't that just a wonderful idea? I'm going to tell my sister, because I would never ever dream of making one for me because I know how long it takes. But I'd like to make my sister a memory quilt. And so that was 12 years ago, probably. So I told her, you know, just don't get rid of your things. Keep them. And one day I'm going to make you a memory quilt. So that was my first sort of touch with memory quilting. Next, I was up in Runner's Soul in Kamloops, and on the ceiling there was a memory quilt, and it was completely finished, and it was gorgeous. It was someone's history up on the ceiling in all its glory, and I had my friend with me, and she knew I was a quilter, and she said, I want one of those. And I looked at her, and I did not quite know what to say. I was speechless because I knew exactly how many hours went into that quilt. And I just kind of put it in the back of my head, and I just really, you know, I just thought about it and said, you know, maybe one day I can make her a quilt. I didn't tell her that, because if I told her that, I would definitely have followed through. So I sat back with that. 5 years later, I was at the intersection of Hillside Drive and Notre Dame. In my car, I was working, going somewhere, and all of a sudden I thought, business and memory quilting. Could someone actually make a living doing memory quilting? At the time, I had a wonderful job, a wonderful career. I loved the people that I work with, and I just shook my head and said, you know, that's a great idea, but that's not for you, not right now. 2 or 3 years ago, I saw a news broadcast. It was Global News, and it was an interview with a woman whose husband had passed away. And sitting beside her was a memory quilt made from her husband's clothing items. And I listened to her speak about what that quilt meant to her. And you know, basically my heart stopped. Taking quilting and a memorial for someone, it just took it to the next level for me. And a few years ago, unfortunately or fortunately, depends how you look at it, I had to say goodbye to my career and look at something new. And this is where I've settled, memory quilting. In the States, currently, you can hire a memory quilter in every state, I'm sure. Memory quilting has been going on south of the border for about 20 years or so. Most people that you would talk to would know what a memory quilt is. Here in Canada, we have a very long way to go, and hopefully within the next 15 years, I can introduce memory quilting to my fellow Canadians. I love the fact that there's the internet and the web, and I can reach people across the country, and they can send me their items, and I can make them a memory quilt. I have to say, I did shelve this idea 4 times. 4 times in an 8-month period while I was on unemployment, because I couldn't figure out how I could possibly charge enough to make a living and think about all my other overhead costs and have my customer on the other end actually be able to afford to buy it. So I did do a lot of research into streamlining the process. I had to invest in the right equipment and invest significantly if I was going to make this a successful business and venture for me. It's not just a business for me. This is from my soul. The memory quilting. It evokes. It's love. You know, it really is. Quilting is about love and connections with people, community, friends, family, co-workers. And it tells a story. And I love the stories that they tell. They're all unique. So one of the major purchases that I made, well, the major purchase, and you'll see it on your handout. It's a picture of me in my basement bedroom. It's called the APQS Millennium Long Arm Quilting System, and it comes with a 12-foot frame, and it allows me to do the quilting. And the quilting is the stitching that actually that sews the 3 layers together, because some people don't understand that the quilting process is very labor intensive because of the 3 layers. So you start out by sewing together a quilt top. So this is not a memory quilt, but this is an example of my hobby quilting. And it's, oh, I've got a pin in it. I've got a pin, but this is a quilt top. And in between is batting. And there's various different types of batting. Depending on the materials I'm working with, I choose for my customer. I don't necessarily let them choose unless they ask. But this is in the middle. And then at the back, for my memory quilts, which is quite different than a lot of other memory quilts south of the border, I use a very soft, minky fabric so that when you get your quilt, it feels soft and cuddly and cozy. There's actually 2 types I use. It just depends on the size of your quilt. But, you know, when I was looking at designing, you know, it's about the design, but it's really about how my quilts feel. And I want my quilts to be soft when my customers receive them. It's actually, memory quilts are quite softer in comparison to traditional cotton quilts because the fabric's been used and worn. So they actually feel very soft right off the bat. After the presentation, please feel free to come up and feel the quilt. Design was another challenge. If you look at your handouts on page 2 and 3, the traditional quilting designs for memory quilts, they were all done in rows and columns. And as much as I still love the work and appreciate that person's story, the design didn't speak to me. It was it wasn't as exciting. So I came up with a technique to take the sizes on the shirts and cut the blocks according to the design and fit them together like a puzzle. And I love it. I think others look at it and their eye wanders and they look from one fabric to another and one year on a print design, and they realize, hey, where was I when I did that? And they remember the people that they were with, and the stories go along from there. I can't believe that 10 minutes has passed so quickly. I didn't get through, oh my goodness. So I'll have much more to tell you in my second presentation, but I would like to open it up to a quick Q&A if anybody has any questions.
I'll just make a comment, Marnie. I just have to say, it's so nice to walk in the room today and there's not like, whose presentation is it today? I don't know, it's just amazing to see your sign, your quilt, the effort that you make, and when people come in and do their presentation, it's good to know who's doing it, and I think that putting the effort in, you guys remember Sandra? Sandra used to go all out, but it isn't.
Sandra.
Yeah, Sandra. But I gotta say, some people come in and say, oh, and they stand at the podium and they read a bit of stuff, but it's just really nice to put a little bit of effort, and I really think that that's fantastic, so it's awesome.
Thank you for your feedback. Thank you. It's been an honor. I really feel thankful that Tara invited me to join your group. I feel like I have colleagues once again, because working alone has presented its own set of challenges for me. I've always worked in an office setting with a team. And I do hope in the future that I can grow my business enough to at least employ one other person, part-time, full-time, so that I have someone else to, bounce ideas off of and, say good morning to. But thank you all. To close, I just want to remind you that a memory quilt by Marnie, a quilt that tells your story, is a unique way to remember.
Nice.
Thanks.